the biggest myth we saw was the term transaction value. What is the definition of transaction value?
Welcome to the E-Comm Show podcast. I am your host, Andrew Mapp, owner and founder of BlueTuskr. From groundbreaking industry updates to success stories and strategies, get to know the ins and outs of the e-commerce industry from top leaders in the space. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the E-Comm Show. As usual, I am your host, Andrew Mapp, and today I welcome back Izzy Rosenzweig, who is the CEO and founder over at Portless. Izzy, how you doing, man? How's it been?
Doing great. Andrew, thank you so much for having me for a second time. Very, very excited.
Yeah, not a problem. Do you know so we almost nailed it. Well, as of the recording today, we're almost exactly a year out from when your last episode was published. So we'll get a nice annual recap from Izzy over at Portless. Super excited. I know the amount of stuff that has happened since the last time you and I spoke is we'll need multiple episodes between now and the next annual catch up you and I have. But let's start off kind of the usual. And I'll give you the floor. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started with Portless, and then we'll jump into the good stuff.
Absolutely. So I was originally a brand owner. I ran a brand for about 10 years. I ran it in the home and kitchen space, direct to consumer. The first 2 years of running that business, I ran it in the traditional supply chain model that most e-commerce still do today, which is I was buying goods from somewhere overseas. My stuff was mainly China and Vietnam. And I was putting stuff on shipping containers. And that was just an absolute brutal way to buy goods from a cash flow perspective. I'd put out 50K, 100K, 250K at a time. And I was just always waiting for the goods to get here. Once it got here, I was waiting for it to sell. So I get cash out of inventory. Then I realized I made a wrong bet on predictions. So I'm trying to buy 4 to 6 months in advance. And I would have excess inventory, which I had to liquidate or whatever, like lose money on the sale. It was really hard, but that was the way I ran the first years of that business. Then I pivoted, or I got very lucky. I met early Alibaba executives, and they kind of introduced me to this evolving space of what we call the direct supply chain model, which is you don't need to put stuff on boats. Keep goods near the factories, in facilities near the factories. We have 2 in China, 2 in Vietnam, and ship from there. And essentially, the way it works is once we have the goods in our facilities, we could deliver goods in about 6 days across the US, 100% local experience. So a customer makes an order, within 24 hours, there's a USPS tracking number. Well, 5 days later, your driver puts on the front door, USPS label or another regional carrier's label, either be non-branded or branded packaging, whatever the customer wants. But the customer has the exact same experience as they had yesterday. But from a brand's perspective, I argue everything changes. And that's how I ran my brand for 10 years. Well, all of a sudden, my cash flow was incredible. I was buying goods. Well, I didn't even put out 250 grand at a time or $1 million at a time because I wasn't buying 6 months. I was buying 4 weeks at a time. Yeah. And then as I was selling, I was rebuying the right SKUs, the right colors. So I was avoiding excess inventory because I wasn't reinvesting in bad SKUs, and I was capturing demand in season of the good SKUs. So the right colors, the right products, and scaling it. I was never out of stock. I constantly buying more. So that business, we were able to scale quite aggressively. We built infrastructure, software, and logistics solutions around that entire business. That business did about 100 million of revenue and amazing cash flow. I did shift out of the brand to the brand business, the D2C business to B2B business when iOS 14 happened. So if you're marketing world, you remember there was a period about a year, I would say, that iOS 14 got released, basically Apple's privacy update. Apple said, I'm no longer sending Meta any data or anyone data. So if you're in the marketing world, which we were, driving a lot of our revenue through marketing, everything kind of went chaotic and we couldn't see our marketing attribution. So we decided to do is lean into the infrastructure, the software, and the solutions we built from a logistics perspective. We launched Portless to help other brands be more sophisticated when it comes to cash flow. And now we're fortunate. We support hundreds of brands across the US, UK, and Australia, and some Western Europe. And we deliver goods 5-6 days from near the factory to in our facilities near the factory. So brand can manufacture. Within 1 to 2 days later, it's in our facility. They start selling. We pick, pack, have that order delivered to the customer's front door. 5 to 6 days later, fully local experience. Brands go from $1 million in inventory upfront to now less, 250K, and they're restocking on the right stuff. So they're getting cash back faster, less money in inventory. So that's what we do at Portless, and that's how I got into it.
Interesting. Okay, so you've been on the show. You know that my knowledge in operations and inventory management is impressively low, but I have questions. So first thing I'm thinking about, it all makes a ton of sense, right? Like I know I was lucky enough to have the founder of ButcherBox on the show, and his operational skill set was really impressive to listen to. But he talked about the same problems of like in the beginning, you got to order so much, and then you're basically just playing catch up at all the time. You're chasing your tail the whole time. With the Portless solution, makes a ton of sense. What I'm curious about is if you're now ordering, you now need to order less quantities from your factory. Wouldn't that theoretically increase your costs on the factory side because you're not doing as big of a bulk purchase? And then my other question being, if I can bulk ship a ton of stuff through a boat and then be able to ship it individually out of a 3PL versus leaving it overseas and then doing it from that way, wouldn't I potentially be paying more on the individual order because it's now coming, I assume, from a plane or something like that?
Both great questions. So let's do one at a time. First, let's talk about MOQ. In general, we've seen a new shift out of China where factories are starting to put a premium on lower MOQ. Now, why they're doing that is because Shein has proven over the last 10 years that if you're a factory and you're willing to take bets on smaller MOQ, yes, the factory won't make as much money, but then the brand can find winners faster. And then once you get winners faster, everyone wins. The brand wins and the factory wins. So we've seen factories go down in the apparel space, let's say, one roll of fabric, 50 units in that one roll. So you could test and not charge you much of a premium. So that's one. In general, it's a fundamental shift the way factories looking at manufacturing. So it's called small batch manufacturing. It is the kind of evolution that Shein has invented or has perfected, and brands are leaning into it. Now, again, small batch manufacturing only works if you're filling from near your factory because you got to restock really quickly. The next thing is, let's just say it goes up by 10%. Let's just say your COG goes from $5 to $5.50. Now you have to ask yourself a question. Okay, I'm paying 50 cents more, but what's my velocity of sales? So if you do 10,000 up front, but you messed up on 30% of the average excess inventory rate. So you messed up 30% on your predictions. Now you have a 30% write-off. That's $5 times 30% or whatever your inventory is. You will actually make more money on your P&L. Forget about cash flow. Cash flow is amazing in this model, but you'll actually have net better profits by avoiding excess inventory. If it's an essential, like if you sell this all day, every day, of course, like why not? But if it's newer or you're not sure how the season's going to go, last year was good, will it be good this next year? The slight cost, and it's very slight, it's not even 10% usually, but whatever that cost is, well, what's the cost of excess inventory? What's the cost of not restocking and really fast from your factory and having an inventory? That is a cost that you got to do your calculations with. So that's your first question. Should I move on to the second one?
Go for it. Yeah, you're on a roll.
Okay. The cost. You were right. I want to say you're right. You're right depending on the customer. So that's why we don't service all customers. If you're in the furniture business, do boats. If you're in bulky business, whatever. If you could fit in a shoebox or less, think like shoes, cosmetics, clothing, all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. The cost per flight isn't that expensive when we have many orders in a single pallet. So two things to keep in mind. First thing is we do zone skipping. What does that mean? If you were using a 3PL on the West Coast, well, so LA is, let's get zone 1, but you got to ship orders to New York, you got to ship orders to Chicago, you got to ship orders to Miami, Texas. You're paying a premium the further it goes from your core location. It's called zone 1 through zone 8. So your shipping rates in LA might be $5, but your shipping to New York might be $8. Even if you have 2 locations, East Coast and West Coast, okay, you still have zone 1 through zone 4. So first, what we're doing is when we put stuff on planes, we're going to 6 injection points: LA, Chicago, New York, Arizona, Texas, Miami, and sometimes Atlanta, which means we're zone skipping. You're never paying more the last mile than zone 1 or zone 2. Okay, that's great. You're saving on the last mile. How about the airplane? Well, the airplane, it's all about us blending many different orders in a single pallet. And the example I give is pretend you're in the jewelry business and you're selling a pair of earrings. How many orders of a pair of earrings could I fit on a single pallet? 1 million, like 100,000. Yeah. So your cost per order is pennies in that scenario, and your last mile is zone skipping. Our shipping rates start at $5, door to door, customs clearance to the customer's front door for a quarter pound. Obviously, as it gets larger and bulkier, it gets more expensive. So that's a pair of earrings, let's say. even under $5, like $4 and something and 80 something cents. But you can scale up to a t-shirt, you can scale up to a dress. At a certain scale, once you're like an extreme example, once you're selling pure furniture, well, obviously not going to fit one furniture, one pallet.
Yeah.
But as long as you're under 5 pounds or it fits in a shoebox, most likely your shipping rates will be very similar to our shipping rates. So you're almost apples to apples on the shipping rates, but now you unlock cash flow,
Yeah.
you unlock avoiding excess inventory, your ability to test faster. And there's one other advantage I'll talk about. It's connected to the tariff conversation, but I'll get to it in a minute.
Good. I love the segue.
Okay.
Is your e-commerce business experiencing falling revenue? BlueTuskr has helped many brands like yours excel. Unlike other marketing partners, BlueTuskr leverages a team of specialists to ensure every strategy is created and executed toward your business growth. As an extension of your marketing team, BlueTuskr prides itself on helping to fill in the gaps and develop strong omni-channel strategies to diversify your business from the rest. Ready to scale your marketing initiatives? Visit their website, BlueTuskr.com. That's BlueTuskr.com.
Oh, should I jump in?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay,
that's what I'm ready to get. That's what I'm here for.
Right.
So that was what I was alluding to.
Right.
Like in the past year, I'm like, oh, great. This is going to be perfect because this is the tariffs 101 conversation I know we're about to have. Beautiful. And you're in China, Vietnam. Let's go. What happened in the past year?
Let's go big, go home. Okay, so this is what happened. When we spoke last year, de minimis existed. And everyone says, oh, American brand Shein, they'll only exist in this business because of de minimis. I fought it forever. You can find me in every major news article from Bloomberg to New York Times to CB. That is not correct. People use this model for the ultimate cash flow model. It is a supply chain game. It is the efficiency and agile inventory. So when de minimis went away, all that happened is you're paying your import tax on it the same way you would pay import tax if you used a shipping container. We haven't lost a single customer. We are shipping the same amount of orders every single day that we did before de minimis and after de minimis. Yes, you're paying import tax, but import tax, let's say right now it's 30%. There's 20% reciprocal or 10% reciprocal, 20% fentanyl. Then there's Section 301 and base tariffs. So you're anywhere between 30 to 50%. Okay, so if you are a $10 COG item, you're adding $3 to $5 on your retail. But that $10 item you're probably selling for $75. Now you got to sell $79.99. Again, it's inflationary. It sucks. Everyone's done it. It's not slowing down. E-Comm is pumping. At 145% tariffs, I would argue Trump was going to bankrupt the economy. He was going to bankrupt tens of thousands of brands. But at a 30 to 50% tariffs, people are living with that. People are scaling with it. So it is working. So now the prior, yes, de minimis is gone for everybody. Everyone's got to pay import tax. Side note, not Vietnam. We'll put that to the side for a minute. It's China first. But our customers still have a major financial advantage, which is if you're a brand and you're importing $1 million of goods and you're doing it through the traditional way, through boats, you need to pull out your checkbook and write a check to the CBP for $500,000 the day it hits the ports. It's not in your warehouse yet. You haven't sold a single shoe or a single shirt. You need to write an additional $500,000 and the cash to support that's not in your bank. Yeah. In our model, you're not spending a penny on import duties day one. It's sitting in country of origin, sitting in China. It's not in America. Why do you got to pay import duties? You sell your shirt. Let's say you sell, in this case, the pen. You collect money from the customer. That money's in your bank. At that point, we ship it. And only when that order crosses the border are you paying import duties. So you got to pay the same $500,000 over time, but you're collecting the money up front. And that in itself is game changing. Sure, de minimis is gone. But the people that use us aren't laying out that money. They're using that money for operations. They use money for marketing. They use that money for whatever they got to run their business versus the competitors, the ones that are using the old supply chain model. They just lost that much more money in their operations. So not only does cash flow still exist, not only does agile inventory still exist, and not only are brands still scaling this model, but now they also have financial advantage, which is tax deferment. And that is huge.
Yeah. So are you seeing more and more like warehouses, 3PLs kind of thing popping up within China and Vietnam to start allowing for more of this to happen? And you're going to start seeing, I guess, warehouses and 3PLs start to dwindle in the States?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll dwindle. I mean, we're probably the largest one that we know in this model. We're in China, China, Vietnam. We're opening up in India, but the U.S. like to me, e-commerce is so big. There's always gonna be a local need. So I would say Canada, Mexico are getting crushed. So if you were doing this model of Canada or Mexico, using it for de minimis, that's shipping either to the US or us. Because once you're in those models, like it was all about de minimis, but de minimis is gone. Why are you using it? Now, de minimis is gone for China. It is still existing for every other country in the world. So if you're shipping out of our Vietnam location, you are legally allowed to import duty free, as long as your transaction value is under $800 or your retail value is under $800. So that is that's still around, and it's supposed to go away based on the big beautiful bill, July 2027, end of June or early July 2027. There's a lot of time to use that. So Mexico and Canada are still leveraging it for brands that are manufactured and not in China are still leveraging it. Like, why not? It's there. You could use it. You should use it. So that model is still existing, which is quite interesting.
What would you say is like the biggest myth right now? Because there's so many theories there. Especially when the tariffs first started becoming a thing, I swear I got some cold email every 5 minutes about someone who's like, here's what you got to do. And they were all different. In your opinion, what is kind of the biggest myth right now that brands are struggling with regarding the tariffs?
Yeah, I would say there was, in the early days, there was so much noise. I would say people that are, I want to call them influencers, people that will post a lot about it, but they didn't necessarily speak to trade lawyers to validate what they were posting. They were just seeing what they believe was true versus speaking to lawyers. So it is definitely complex. It's very complex, very complex world. But I would say the biggest myth we saw was the term transaction value. What is the definition of transaction value? So a lot of people saying, oh, transaction value, if you are shipping goods into the United States, you have to use transaction value. Well, historically, transaction value was retail value. That was when it was under the de minimis rule. Because de minimis rule, the import of record was the ultimate consignee. And the ultimate consignee, their transaction value, because they're the import of record, was what they bought on the retail site. But in the new model, where now it's moving towards commercial entry, not under de minimis, the merchant is the import of record. And the merchant's transaction value is not retail. The merchant's transaction value is what they are buying it from their seller. And their seller is the factory. So it's actually FOB China. So it's not, I use carefully the word COG. I don't want to use the word COG because COG could look at cost of goods. So it's not the raw material cost. It's the fully developed product. And what you're paying for from the factory. The factory obviously has to make a margin and be profitable. So it's what you're buying. What is your invoice from your factory? That is transaction value. So there was a lot of misconception, and we worked with trade lawyers, and we kind of explained it many, many times. And consistently, this has been the agreed upon. So if you are shipping goods, let's say in our model or in the other models from Vietnam or China, your taxes is on your transaction value. And that was a big misconception in the early days.
Interesting. Okay, I understand that. So last year, you're on the show, and we had no idea this was going to happen. So let's now say you're back on the show next summer. What do you think we're going to be talking about? What happens between now and then?
Great question. I do think what's nice is we're post the chaotic side. I mean, it's still chaos, but I do think the way Trump approached it, the way the administration approached it, I won't say him, but maybe he's the trade leader, the trade negotiators, was they went very extreme, very fast. One thing we think is clear is that Trump wants the economy to do well. He wants a great stock market. He wants the economy to do well. He wants to make money, but he also wants the economy to do well. Both things want to be true. He wants additional revenue, and he wants the economy to do well. To me, the path he was going on with going extreme, they say is like his art of the deal that he keeps playing. Go really extreme, grab leverage, and then negotiate where it's somewhere in the middle. So what's nice is he's done the extreme part, which is the painful part. We're past that. Now we're to where he wants to show the market and the economy that he is a good negotiator and he'll do well for the American people and the taxpayers, which is there will be taxes. If you look at the UK, let's call it our tier one partner, baseline is 10%. You look at China, it's at 30%. You look at Vietnam, it's at 20%. So most likely, as long as you are not pissing them off too much and you're doing business with them, you will see import duties anywhere between 10 to 30%. I don't think it'll be higher than that, and I don't think it'll be lower than that, which now tells you, okay, we know where we live. And where brands cannot make decisions. Well, do I want to go to Vietnam? Well, he just announced a Vietnam deal, and now it's a 20% additional on top of base. Okay, the spread isn't so much anymore between China and Vietnam. It's still there, but it's not huge. So like we're seeing now, I think, a lot more clear direction, and therefore brands are able to make decisions. And I do see brands starting to diversify a bit. Like people have learned their lessons, not all their eggs in one basket. Do I want a little bit in Vietnam? Do I want to do a little bit in India? End of the day, the problem is that China is so robust ecosystem when it comes to manufacturing. Yeah. We don't see people moving that much, to be honest, unless you're huge, unless you're hundreds of millions of revenue, then we're seeing diversification. But at least there's stability. And people kind of know where they live. They could price according to that stability. So I think we're in a much, much better spot. So I do think by the time next year, there will be deals made. Every country will be different. I would say those are I think there'll be more stability compared to this year.
Yeah. And so you think we'll be back to kind of the new norm, I guess, at that point?
The new norm, which is tariffs and import duties.
Yeah.
And also, I would say over the longer run, while de minimis still exists in the United States and Vietnam, and de minimis exists in many countries around the world, by the way. It exists to Australia for under $1,000 Australian dollars. It exists to Europe for 150 euros, and exists to the UK under 135 GBP. Directionally, de minimis was going away around the world. The only one that is increasing it is Argentina, the ultimate free trade guy. But everyone else is probably going to, get rid of it, which is fine. It's like, Europe is calling 2028, so they don't move as fast. But I would say that's another, trend we're seeing.
Yeah, interesting. Izzy, man, awesome, fantastic. I'm already looking forward to next year, so we can do this again. This was great. Obviously, Normal, really appreciate having you on the show. I'd love to give you the floor, let everyone know where they can find out more about you and more about Portless.
Again, thank you so much for having me on the show. Always a blast. If you want to learn, I post a lot on LinkedIn. You can follow me at Izzy Rosenzweig on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me a DM there if you want to learn more. Also at Portless.com, we have a ton of information, podcasts, webinars, case studies. You learn about, educate yourself about the model. For us, our position is, this is the evolution of logistics for e-commerce, and either you go with that trend or your competitors will, and they'll probably take market share. So learn about it. At a minimum, learn about it, educate yourself, and if you want to learn more, reach out to us. We'd love the opportunity to talk to you.
Izzy, thank you again, sir. Really appreciate you having on the show, and everyone over at the Portless team, thank you as well. As usual, everyone who tuned in, thank you as well. Please make sure you do the usual thing, rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff on whichever podcast platform you prefer, or head over to the ecommshow.com to check out all of our previous episodes. But as usual, thank you all for joining us. See you next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the E-Comm Show. Head over to ecomshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The E-Comm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the E-Comm Show.